It's almost certain that if you're listening to this call and you own a construction business, that you're probably doing 5 to 7 hours worth of work each week that you shouldn't be doing.
There is a major mental mindset to the idea that I'm going to take the burden off my shoulders.
That's your limitation. Well, how do you break out of that? The question that often business owners are asking is, how can I get this done? That's a very bad question. There's a better question. How can this get done? But it won't be by me.
What is the method of getting to that point of clarity and focus?
So here's the thing. If you have 92 priorities, how many priorities do you have? None. That's the problem. Steve Jobs said it best. Focus isn't what you choose to say yes to. It's what you have to say no to.
Expert advice, practical tips, real-life stories. Have less stress, more time, and more money in your business. Welcome to the Cash Flow Contractor.
Martin, it's Wednesday. Both of us are kind of out of our realm. I'm up in Oklahoma City. I'm in a box right now for those watching. And you're coming off of a client meeting. How's the Wednesday feel for you on recording?
Okay, I'm going to give us a clear spot here.
Yeah.
And I'll clap at the end so I can tell you. Yesterday, I had a colonoscopy.
Oh, there we go.
No, I don't care if the world knows it, but if you want to cut it out.
No, let's leave it in.
But what cracked me up is I walk in there and you're filling out the papers, right?
Yeah.
And the first paper I have to have is it indemnifies them that if the procedure breaks my teeth.
Oh my
I
gosh.
said,
What's going on?
how long is that damn probe? And they started laughing and everything. No, it's people, endoscopies, you go both directions, right?
Right.
Oh, okay.
And I only chose one direction. But anyway, that's the first disclaimer. I go,
That's
holy
great.
cow.
Last time I had one, I was put under, and I woke up towards the end of the procedure, and I saw myself on
Oh, yeah.
the monitor.
Oh, wow.
I saw the insides of myself on the monitor, which is sort of.
I've done, I don't know, this might have been my fourth or fifth one, whatever, but one of them, they have an anesthesia that you're not really asleep. You just don't remember, which is a metaphysical mind blower, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, I woke up and I was talking to the doctor, and I was kind of groggy, and he wasn't talking back to me, and I was thinking, what a jerk, but he was over there shouting out, stuff that they're recording. But so anyway,
Man.
so
Well,
if
now
you
you're popping back in.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Well, we've got John Nieuwenburg here. Thanks for joining us, John.
My pleasure.
Business coach, W5 coaching up in BC, British Columbia, Canada.
Yep.
And work with business owners all over, work with a lot of construction companies. And Martin, you could say we're doing a colonoscopy of sorts on business owners for their business.
Yeah, it works. A deep probe.
No, we wanted to bring you in, John. We talk about this all the time, just about changing the mindset as a business owner from getting out of in the business to working on it.
Yeah.
And you work with a lot of business owners on this exact principle, and you have a great process that you work them through. And I don't know that we'll go in detail on like the step-by-step process, but we'll cover all the different areas and in some detail and kind of bounce around. But I think it's just gonna be a fun conversation. So Martin works with clients, you work with clients. What are some of the things when you first step in, what do you almost hear from all the business owners out there to start?
Well, the business owners I work with are complaining about one or all three of time, team, or money. So they're saying things like, I've got too much to do and not enough time to do it. I can't get everything done. If I don't do it, it won't get done. So that's sort of the realm of time complaints. Team complaints are, recruiting is very difficult. It's hard to get good team members. It's hard to get the culture you want. It's hard to get people to do work at the quality, at the level you need. And money has two components to it. One aspect is having proper financials, reporting, KPIs, a dashboard to measure results. And the other side of money is I need more money. I need better sales and marketing. So the business owners I meet and the ones I work with are typically in some way or another challenged about one of those things, or all of them mostly.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
They all sound familiar. So let's start with the time one. Specifically with construction companies. time can be really hard because, unlike us, we get to work remotely from a computer. We have that luxury of being on a screen from wherever we want to most days. The job site is physical. You've got stuff happening on site. A lot of times you're putting yourself there. How do you help construction companies and the business owners specifically with their time management?
Yeah. So it's almost certain that if you're listening to this call and you own a construction business, that you're probably doing 5 to 7 hours worth of work each week that you shouldn't be doing. And in fact,
Okay, how do you know that?
Well, I've worked with 430 clients, so I have some experience with this. But the thing I like to ask a business owner is, tell me what's on your oh shit list. And what do I mean
what's an
by
oh shit
that?
list?
The oh shit list
Yeah.
is something that you normally do each week in your business, that every time you think about having to do that, it causes you to kind of stress, to kind of, oh God, I've got to do this thing. Or in some way or another, it's something you don't like to do, procrastinate, you dread doing it. Well, that for me, and ought to be for you, a signal that you should not be doing that work anymore. So it's, sending out invoices, sometimes calling receivables, it's doing payroll. It oftentimes is the stuff that you deem tedious, sending out proposals. All of that work can be done by somebody, and they'll do that work better than you. Not as good, I mean better than you, because for them, it's not something they dread. It's something they are very qualified and want to do. And they'll do it at the fraction of whatever it is you bill yourself out at. So nowadays, virtual services, you can get very qualified workers, $15 an hour. And if your billable rate is 80, 90, 100, 150, why are you doing work that someone will do for $15 an hour?
Right.
Yeah. So is that one of the first things you start with, is building that oh shit list?
Yeah, so typically when I start with a business owner, they're already dreading the fact that I'm too busy already. How am I going to fit this coaching thing in amongst that? And so the first, I call it the burning bush. The first burning bush that we have to overcome is to free up some space, to help you get some space that you can add coaching without adding to the I'm already working too many hours feeling that you have. So very, very often is the first place we start.
Yeah, that's really good. And here's a question for you. You mentioned virtual services. We've talked about global talent on this podcast before, and we help a lot of contractors with that specifically. But what is the first reaction that these owners have when you say, hey, you're going to hire this person in the Philippines or in Mexico that's going to handle your payroll, that's going to handle your accounts receivable? What is their response typically?
Well, there is a bit of concern and sometimes a bit of friction about having somebody overseas. But what is more commonly the problem is it's just easier to do it myself. It's going to take me hours to teach this person, and how's that save time for me if I have to spend 5 hours teaching something to somebody? And so one of the things business owners need to work out is, how does delegation work? How do you do training? How do you do SOPs, standard operating procedures? And so one of the first breakthroughs for many business owners is, listen, you don't write the SOPs. That's not your job. Your job is to provide instructions, typically in the form of a Zoom call, 15, 20, 30 minutes. You share your screen, you provide direction on how you want something done. And the first thing your VA would do for you is to write the SOP. And what does this do for you? Well, they may take an hour to do that. You did the instruction in 10, 15 minutes, so that reduces that friction. Number two is it forces the VA to crystallize, to get clear about exactly what you've asked them to do. It forms kind of a contract between you and the VA, in that the VA has demonstrated to you exactly what you're expecting time and again. Anytime you ask her to onboard a new hire or do, receivables, anything, is I need you to do receivables this week. Well, we're not debating what does that mean. Here's what it means. It's exactly what we've outlined in the SOP. And the fourth part about it is that if, God forbid, something were to happen, the SOPs are generally so well written and documented. You can hand it to any capable VA and they'd be able to reproduce the work with 2, 3, 5 minutes of guidance. And so SOPs and delegation is a system. It's something you can learn to do in a way that takes the burden off your shoulders instead of adding to the burden that you're feeling.
You know, there is a major mental mindset to the idea that I'm going to take the burden off my shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and the way I address it, and I think you too, from what I've heard you say, is that 5 hours you're going to have to teach somebody is a capital investment. Cost you an extra 5 hours this week, but it pays you an hour a week for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Time saved.
And so that's a concept that's hard sometimes for people to get, is the idea of leverage, doing more with less, amplifying the results that you're getting through the work you get from others. The amount of leverage you have as a business owner is the amount of time you're willing to spend. And that has a natural cap. At some point, 40 hours, 50 hours, 70 hours, 80 hours, that's your limitation. Well, how do you break out of that? Well, the first thing is not a question of how can this get done. Sorry. The question that often business owners are asking is, how can I get this done? That's a very bad question. There's a better question. And that question is, how can this get done? But it won't be by me. There's a great book called Who Not How.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Who Not How.
Yeah, which frames that exactly in the same way. The question is, the way I've always said it is, it's not how can I get this done? It's how can this get done? And the only thing that changed is who's doing it. It isn't I.
Yeah.
Yeah. And buy back your time.
Yeah, that's a great.
Is the other one.
Oh,
Where you start thinking, I am paying to get my life back.
yeah,
What's my life worth?
yeah,
And one thing too, you said more for less leverage. That is the whole game of business.
yeah,
You make a profit by raising prices or reducing costs. We beat the prices to death a little bit, but the whole game is figuring out, that's the whole game. How
Yeah.
can I do it for less?
yeah. So leverage is leverage through people, through technology, through finance. That's the form of leverage that we all know most commonly. There are 6, 7 forms of leverage. And the better you understand that, the better you execute on this, the better the business, and effectively, the better your life is going to be.
Yeah. I think, so why do you think it's so hard for, I know we've kind of danced around this, but why do you think it's still so hard for people to grasp the idea of not being an operator, but being a leader and actually using that leverage? Is it because it's unknown? Is it because they've never seen anyone else do it? Like, what do you typically see? Is it just that they're stuck in their ways?
I'm going to share a secret with you that I don't
Okay.
like to say out loud very much when I first meet business owners. But all business coaching is personal coaching in disguise. Let me repeat
Absolutely.
that. All business
Would you agree,
coaching,
Martin?
I say that exact theme. It's all personal.
Yeah, and by that, often what I mean mostly is mindset, and then skills around leadership, communication, and delegation.
Why does that matter that it's personal coaching and not business coaching?
Well, because often, the business owners come and they identify the problem as something in their business, but they don't or can't hold up a mirror to themselves and recognize they're actually the obstruction. They're the thing that's in the way, their own mindset.
And that's why it's important to get them out of the way and to get them out of the operations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So John's approach is to get the OSHA list together and hire an assistant to start doing that stuff. But
First.
you don't necessarily
Yeah.
focus on the assistant. You focus on the books first. Is that right, Mark? How would you approach it?
Well, we talk frequently about the 4 areas of business and guiding, getting, doing, and administering. John is, and so I cycle through what's the most important thing. Maybe they're about to die because of a cash flow issue. Maybe they're about to die because they can't get any leads. Maybe they can get the leads, but they can't. So we look for the thing that's most compelling, and sometimes so I work on that first. But I certainly don't disagree. Actually, that's not true. Every talk, first meeting with any client, speech or workshop I've ever given, I start with the same slide. You've probably seen it a million times, Cleo. It's that mule with the reins holding him to the 4-ounce chair. And I say, what's holding that guy? What's holding that mule there?
Yeah.
And it's just thinking. And I said, guys, that's the fundamental place to start. But once we get past that, I start with books because I really want to know what's going on. I mean, what resources do we have? And it's incredible. And this will be the last I say about it today, but it's incredible how few businesses know if they made a profit last month.
Yeah, I see that.
Or last quarter or last year. I think so. I got money.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean you made a profit.
Sure.
So, anyway.
Just a little anecdote that goes back to what you just said is when I first started as a coach, one of my first ever clients I was working with, and we had this kind of academic idea about what coaching is about. Let's have a strategic plan and a business plan, and what are we trying to do, and what's the roadmap, and where are we aiming? And I was working with this client for, 3, 4, 5 weeks, and he wasn't very engaged with me. And I finally, hey, what's going on? How come you're not participating in this? And he looked at me, he says, I don't know why we're doing this. I can't make payroll tomorrow. And that's when I realized I was a doofus, because that's when I came to understand, until you deal with what I call the burning bush, whatever that is for that owner, that has to be solved first before they have the headspace, they reduce the anxiety, where they can start thinking about, okay, what am I trying to do here? And so what I've learned is, what's the burning bush? Could be time, could be money, could be team, but something has caused them to get to a place where they say, I need help.
Yeah. Quick ad break to tell you a little bit about OpenPhone. If you're a contractor that has a single cell phone, you're probably inundated with text messages and phone calls, oftentimes that you can't be responsive to or that you can't answer at all. So what's the solution? You can buy another office line with Verizon or AT&T, and you can have an iPhone that is passed around from employee to employee, depending on who's on call. But what if there's a better way? What if there's a way that you can have all your phone calls recorded to go back and listen to later, transcribed with summaries so that you can get a quick glance at what happened during the phone call, and even connect it to your CRM where all your other customer information is. OpenPhone is the perfect solution because it does just that. You're able to add all the users you need to for whoever needs to have access to the lines for your company phone. And then you can also find all of the information you need at a glance with a centralized location for all phone calls and text messages with your customers. Whether it's for marketing, for sales, or for service, OpenPhone is the perfect solution for you and your team. If you're interested, we have an offer down the show notes from OpenPhone. Please click the link down the show notes, or you can see it here on your screen to be able to find more information about OpenPhone. Thanks for listening. Back to the episode. So I think for a lot of business owners, there's a quote, their mind can feel like a banana tree full of monkeys, where it's just nonstop, like one thing after the other, right? And it's like, I try to focus on this, and then there's a monkey over there pulling at this, and it's just nonstop.
Yeah.
How do you get that focus to just get something done? What is the method of getting to that point of clarity and focus?
For me, one of the biggest game changers I've had in the last year or so is Zoom, Fathom Notes, note-taking during client calls, and using Chat GPT to take the Fathom Notes and create a record of the meeting, which includes a long list, 20, 30, 50 things that we've talked about that could be action items. And we narrow it down to the top 3 and the next 3. That's all we talk about. So here's the thing. If you have 92 priorities, how many priorities do you have? You don't have None. That's the problem. So you think you've got a tree full of monkeys. Well, yes, that's why your brain is acting like it's on a monkey brain. Here's the thing. Steve Jobs said it best. Focus isn't what you choose to say yes to. It's what you have to say no to. Mm-hmm. It's what you have to say no to.
Good point.
And so let's get clear. Here's the 3 things that if we move the needle on these 3 things, that's going to make the biggest difference. And it means that we have to just ignore, accept, or live with some of these other things. But the the biggest bang, the biggest result you're going to get is if we do these three things well. And when we've got one of those off the plate, we'll select another one. And so focus is a very, very difficult thing. And it's one of the values, I'm going to circle back, one of the values of having a VA is the VA helps you and kind of holds your feet accountable to actually discussing your priorities each day, because you're working through that with the VA. And in that articulation, when you're describing that to your VA, it effectively acts as a brain dump. And it gets all those monkeys out of your head to a place where you actually can process, where you can make selections, choices about what the priorities are. So it's one of the actual real benefits of having a VA, but it's one of the sort of unintended or unexpected results from having a VA is they help you think through priorities each day.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed, I've got one at Khalil's behest, finally convinced me it's wonderful, is they really want that job.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to do more.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still, I've given Yenny a couple of things, Khalil, HubSpot leads that normally I'd just let them go. Somebody downloaded something. I go, hey, email these guys. She did, and I've got one that we'll see signed next week. But, I didn't have to do that. Or I didn't have to blow it off. And amazing how much stuff you do just because, for whatever reason we do it.
One of the things that helped me about with that kind of thinking is I ask myself, what is the one thing I do in my business that only I can do? Where do I create the most value in my business? Mm-hmm. And my answer for that, and this is just my example, everybody should be asking this question. My answer to that is talk. The only thing I should do in my business is talk to clients and prospects. That's it. Nobody, at least in my business, can do that as well as me. Now, if it isn't one of those two things, I don't do it. It needs to be done. So anytime it's not one of those two things, I'm asking, well, how can this get done? My VA. The VA can take care of these.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I think another good concept to understand that I just saw something about this. I'll actually read it. It's from Jason Fried. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but he's the one that Basecamp. Basecamp guy. 37 Signals, really cool. A few years ago, I realized that if I'm too busy to take something on, I shouldn't say I don't have the time. In fact, I often do have the time. It's not that hard to squeeze in some extra time for someone. What I don't have and what I can't squeeze in is more attention.
Right.
Attention is a far more limited resource than time. So what I should say is I don't have the attention. I may have 8 hours a day for work, but I probably have 4 hours a day for attention.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing is whenever you have all these monkeys just grabbing at the bananas all around you, your attention is shot.
Yeah.
And that's why you can't get estimates out. That's why you can't, send messages out to the team in advance about the project prep. It's why you can't do a morning huddle with your team. It's why all these things just pile up and you can't have the attention to do it. And I think that's probably the biggest help an assistant can bring you is not just that tasks are getting done and that you're able to delegate to somebody, but more so that you can get your attention back.
Yeah.
Because it's not just time that all those things pull away from you. It's attention that you need to be able to do the things that you can do.
If I already talked about the Big Rocks video, have you seen that metaphor?
Yeah. Is that Stephen Covey?
Yeah. And so what happens?
Pebbles in the sand.
Yeah. So what happens in this is our lives are made up of attending to the green pebbles, the rings, pings, and dings, the things that demand our attention, and our time will get filled up with as much as we make available to those green pebbles. And what then happens is you don't have time or make time available for the big rocks. And so my question for just about everybody on this call is, do you have a default diary? And the most common answer I get to that is, what's that? Well, it's a different way to think about time. So here's the 4 things you need to know before you start your week. What are the most important results I need this week? What activity? What do I do to get that result? How much of that activity? And then how do I allocate my time so it matches the answers to the first 3 questions? Let me schedule that into my calendar, and all the rings, pings, and dings are fitted in around that instead of the other way around where I'm trying to squeeze in a big rock. No, put the big rocks in first, but you got to know the answer to those 4 questions.
Yeah.
What results?
So
what activity?
What diary did you call that?
It's called the default, or sometimes it's called time blocking or a default diary.
Oh, okay.
Default diary.
Yeah.
Default diary. Very interesting. I like that. I think even just asking that question is tremendous for a lot of people.
Well, that I think is what a virtual assistant can do for you, because the virtual assistant should start the week with, let me ask you some questions.
Exactly. Yeah, I call it a weekly kickoff.
Yeah.
Where I do one every week with my assistant, where we start out and, hey, what is the most important thing this week? Based upon last week, last month, our team meeting last week, I think it could be these things.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Yeah. Can I share my screen? Would that be okay?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I walked up a version of a default diary. And so what we have here is at 8, 10, noon, 2, and 4, there's a 30-minute block for triage. This is when you get with your VA, and the VA reviews with you your rings, pings, and dings, the emails, the phone calls. And in that 30 minutes, you deal with what you can. And then what do you get? You get 90 minutes to do what? Anything you want, uninterrupted. And you get 5 of these a day in this model, 5 times a week. And your job with your VA is to allocate the best use of each of these blocks of time. Now, some of that could be estimating. Some of that could be I need to have a meeting with someone. But it starts with, here is the framework of the best use of my time. And then how do I go about allocating that time against the most important results that I need to get this week?
Now, my only qualm with that is what happens when my project manager calls me and says I need to be on site? What happens when the rings, pings, and dings really, truly are the urgent? They pull you away. How do you? I don't know. My view is that, and this is not I agree that what you have laid out is wonderful. I also believe that the calendar should be sacred.
Yeah.
Meaning if it's on there, unless there's a fire or something else, you do it. And I just see if you're time blocking like that, where it's oh, I've got this deep work, but I'm needed over here. I can just see, people not treating it sacred, I guess is what I'm saying.
But, well, I'll answer then. I think David has a thought about this is, fire trucks happen. Emergency happens. But if you have 3 of them a week, you're not doing something right. You're doing something wrong. So if there's 3 of them a month, okay, well, that's what happens. There's, plans that don't always work out the way that you want. The second part of that is I talked about the 20 minutes at the start of the week to allocate your time for the week. But the second most important thing is 10 minutes at the end of the day to review your plan for tomorrow and identify, is it still correct? Is it still the best use of your time? Because every day there's got to be tweaks, adjustments, modifications. And so there's a chance each day to tweak the plan for tomorrow so that it's responsive and accounts for the fact that someone's sick tomorrow or, whatever it may be happening.
Right.
I also think there's a halfway point before you become sacred, Khalil.
Sure.
One of the things is if you block out these times, like Friday afternoons or marketing or whatever it is, what happens is when you're talking to a client and they said, hey, you want to meet? You go, sure. You ask them, what time works for you? Instead of that, you go, I've got Friday open, and it begins to move the calendar under your influence. Now, if somebody wants to give me a $100,000 check today, and I got to drive to Enid, Oklahoma to get it,
I'll make
see you guys. We're going to reschedule the podcast.
Yeah. But, the underlying principle is that you set boundaries. So instead of reacting to everything everybody's asking you to do, I meet with clients Tuesday morning or Thursday afternoon. Which one's best for you? I've got a block available on Tuesday, a block available. And if it's not one of those 2 days, I can't. And what I've learned is when you present options like that to your client, they'll choose from the options you've created. But instead, if you let the other person set the options, now you're being whipsawed all the time. And and your productivity suffers as a result. You think you're being accommodating, and to some extent you are. But, the famous example of this is, why do they tell the adult on the airplane to put the oxygen mask on first? Why is that good advice? Because you can't look after the infant if you're unconscious.
Right.
Setting boundaries is a good thing to do. Doing it well is the hard thing to do. The better you get at it, the more your boundaries are respected. The worse you are at it, the more you get taken advantage of. It's a paradox. Get good at it, people will respect you. Get bad at it, people don't even know they're taking advantage of you.
Right.
Because you don't let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No, that's really good. Okay. So we've talked about the oh shit list. We've talked about the kind of the mindset shift that you have to have, focusing on leverage, hiring an assistant to get some help with the oh shit list and
Right.
the working too many hours. So maybe the last thing I want to cover with you that you hammer home a lot is building your bench. So why don't you explain that concept to us?
So we as business owners are very focused on acquiring customers, marketing, sales meetings, estimates. And what I'm holding here metaphorically is a high wire act, and I've got a balance bar. And often what happens is it gets out of proportion. I've got so many customers, I can't deal with it because I don't have enough people. And what happens then is we start to constrain. We actually sort of kind of turn away work. So the idea of a bench came from a lesson I had in the 70s. I was a manager of a menswear store in Calgary, and at the time, Calgary grew from about 100 to 500,000 people. Nobody was moving to Calgary to work in retail. And so one of the practices we had, my boss, the local regional manager, and I would tour the mall. My job was to point out the two best salespeople in the mall that weren't yet working for me. And so I'd spend, I'd bump into them at the food court, or I'd be peeking around the corner to see what they're doing. And what I learned with that is we treat hiring, recruiting, onboarding as a reactive kind of thing. Oh my God, somebody quit. I got to try and hire somebody. Instead of, how do we build a pipeline? How do we build a bench? How do we build a farm team of people that we have a relationship with, such that if my most important key worker, the team lead, the foreman, quit tomorrow, I would have the names of 3, 4, 5 people I could call today. I've already had coffee with them. I've had chats I saw them at Home Depot or wherever you bump into these folks. And, we're always be recruiting is one of the key additions that a business owner ought to have, that you ought to have for all of your key positions. You ought to have a bench, a farm team, a group of people in each case that you would turn to whenever you needed to hire. And that, in fact, often changes how that business owner leads people. Because I have business owners right now who are afraid to have hard conversations with people on their team who are showing up and saying, I'm going to be gone for the next 3 days. I'm sick. Or who walk out in the middle of the afternoon, and the business owner tolerates that because they're afraid of what might happen if they had the hard conversation. Whereas if you had a farm team, the next time somebody called in and said, I'm going to be sick for the next 3 days, you can have an entirely different conversation with that guy.
100%.
Because if that guy doesn't show, great.
Yeah, you're not blackmailed.
And that's another version. We talked about leverage. So the person with the most options has the most leverage. And if your worker has the option of yes, no, and you're left with no option, that worker has more power than you in the relationship. And that's why you accept stuff you shouldn't accept. How do you change that? Well, you have to have options. What does options look like? I've got 5 guys I can call. Now that guy behaves badly in the work, on the project or in somewhere or another. I can take an entirely different approach to how I handle that conversation with that person. But you got to do the homework to be in that place where you have leverage.
Yeah. No, that's really good. So what is it? So the bench is not some of it could be some of your current employees, I guess, that you would promote, but typically it's people that are outside the business that you have relationships with. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so let's say you're an electrician and you have 5 Red Seal electricians on your team, and one of them were to quit tomorrow.
Okay.
What would that mean for you? Well, I'd have to start recruiting, and I'm placing ads on Indeed, and I'm looking. Well, okay, why don't we do something different? If you have 5 Red Seal electricians, why not have 10 relationships, casual, informal discussions with people who are other Red Seal electricians in your community or town? How do you do that? Well, you proactively start doing it. You're looking for people at Home Depot when you're in there. You have a recruiter that you've hired on Upwork or one of these agencies, or are making phone calls on your behalf anonymously, calling people, hey, how's it going? How do you like where you're working? How's the boss treating you?
Yeah. You join the association,
Exactly.
show up at the events. Yeah.
You make it as much of an activity. If you're spending 20, 30, 40% of your effort getting customers, some portion of that ought to be spent on acquiring your next team members or building your farm team, because those two things ought to be done more or less in balance or parallel. Back to my balance bar.
Well, partly from what we've talked about today, my mind runs to probably a lot of our listeners are too small at this point, but you have somebody who does that for you.
Too small to...
maybe too small to hire a special person right off, but bring in a retired electrician, have him join all the things, go around, get known, represent your company, and you're not doing it.
That's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that. What I would add to that is that on Upwork, you can hire a recruiter 5 hours a month who actively canvasses your community, and that might cost you $15 or $20 an hour, so $100,
right.
Call it a month, investing in your team. 6 months from now, $600 later, you'll have a farm team.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think these are all really helpful things for our listeners.
Sure.
We've covered the bench and building that bench. It's a proactive thing. We've covered the oh shit list of all the things that come up and you say, oh shit, I got to do that. And then being able to hire an assistant full time that can help you with all this stuff. We talked about getting out of the operator mindset, getting into a leader mindset. Anything else that we need to cover here? Probably too much.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, how can I narrow it down to just a single thing? I'll leave you with this thought. You don't get the culture you want. You get the culture you deserve. You don't get the culture you want, get the culture you deserve. Or let me ask a business owner this other question, which is, if you could start your business today from scratch, let's say they have 10 people in your business, how many of those people would you rehire?
Yeah.
And the most common answer I get to that is about half. And so what you're telling me is the bottom half of your team, I'm going to use this word, are pissing off the top half, or the bottom half of your team are pissing off your customers, and you just live with it. Do you want another reason to have a bench? Do you want another reason to actively cultivate the culture you want so that it supports each other, all of the team members, as well as serves you proud and how they serve customers? We think culture is the cherry on top, or lots of owners think it's kind of the thing I do at the top. It's sort of the boofy poofy kind of thing. But here's the thing, it's the foundation. Get the culture right. So much of the rest becomes so much easier. But it doesn't happen by accident. It happens by deliberate effort.
Yeah. No, you have to be intentional. You have to put the effort in. And in order to be intentional, you have to have the capacity, the attention, like we talked about.
Exactly.
Make it a big rock. You've hired an assistant to get all the rings and dings, like you talked about, off your plate, all the oh shit list things off your plate, so that you can start paying attention and giving your attention to the things that matter. John, this has been excellent. How can our listeners get in touch with you?
Well, I'm W5 Coaching. I'll give you a way to remember that. So coaching, I think, parallels something called the Socratic method of leadership. So Socrates had the best way to help somebody is to help them figure it out for themselves. And you do that by helping them think through what their options are and course, you do that by the nature of the questions you ask. And the 5 core questions are who, what, when, where, why. W5.
There you go.
So
Excellent.
W5 coaching contact details are there. John at W5 coaching. I'm easy to find.
There you go. Love it. W5 coaching. We'll put a link to that. Martin, what were you going to say?
I was just going to ask, you still love coaching?
I do. I'll confess I have some gray hair. I'm 71. I coach 3 days a week. I tried golfing 5 days a week, and I found that boring. Like, what am I doing out here? Another lap of the golf course, whereas I get a lot of satisfaction and joy out of working with business owners. So for most days, it's a joy to do what I do.
Yeah. So you just do golf once a week?
Twice.
Is that what you moved to?
Yeah, twice a week keeps
Two's
me
the magic
interested
number.
in kind
But
of.
he's got it. He can't play on those winter days up there.
No, I don't.
Where were you from? Penticton, was it?
I live in Kelowna in the Okanagan Valley.
Oh, Kelowna. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a town over there called Hope, too, right?
Yeah, Hope is about a 3-hour drive. South and
Yeah.
north, yeah.
Yeah, you never, Khalil, you get up to that part of the country, which you've probably been, you say, how far is it? Nobody's ever described the distance between 2 points in anything other than time.
Yeah.
It'll take about
Yeah.
4 hours to get there. Well, how far is it? 8 miles, but it's a rock road to the mountains,
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah. Time is
Wow.
the measure, is the way that you describe these things.
That's great. Well, you can measure your time that you're dedicating to other tasks.
Sure.
And then, that's how you know if your assistant's worthwhile, if they're
Sure.
getting your time back. So, okay. Well, thanks, John. We
My
appreciate
pleasure.
you having you on.
John, thank you.
Take care. You made it to the end of the episode, but before you go, if you found yourself thinking about growing your construction business while listening today, I want to share something with you. It's called our 24 Things to Hiring and Training the Perfect Executive Assistant for Your Construction Business. And it's a free guide that we've created. It's not theory. It's what we actually use to help contractors hire the perfect executive assistant. And really, we help you find ways to delegate over 50% of your current workload and get back 20 hours of your time every single week. You didn't start your construction business to just be doing admin work, to be buried in paperwork and endless admin tasks. This is the guide that shows you exactly how to find and train someone who can actually take all that weight off of your shoulders. So this is a real actionable, great PDF that has templates and processes. It's really, really great. And I want you to check it out, even just to get your feedback and how we can make it even more valuable. But I know that you're gonna love it. The link is in the show notes. Please download it. We'd love to see how much of an impact it makes on you and your business. Thanks for listening to the full episode. Check out the guide. It's free. No reason to hesitate. No reason to wait. Download it now. And before you go, I just want to ask for your gracious subscription to our podcast. So if you have 2 seconds, it means the world to us. Just subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or if you'd like our weekly newsletter delivered to your inbox whenever we release an episode, please subscribe in the show notes. Every week, we're talking about real strategies on how you can grow and build a profitable construction business that runs without you, so you can have less stress, more time, and more money. Click subscribe wherever you listen to the show, and thank you again for checking out The Cashflow Contractor. See you on the next episode.